because I can look down and see that I was still talking. You know, there's my head. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. See?
We are live, buddy. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Mortgage Coach Friday Mastermind. Every Friday, 9 o'clock Pacific, we are here to bring value. Got my wingman, Todd Bookspan, co-hosting today's call. What's up, buddy?
You know, I'm always excited to be here. As I said earlier, I'm a little bit orange today, so I turned off my other lights. So I didn't quite look like I was a Oompa Loompa from Willy Wonka, but I'm just not my normal pasty white today. So no, I haven't been sitting out at the beach or got a spray tan. It's just the lighting or for some reason.
It's all good, buddy. It's all good.
Excited. I listened to our special guest interview with you last week, and I'm, he's an old friend, and I'm super excited to be here with the two of you guys today.
Good. Well, we've got a special guest. We've got Cody Touchette. What's up, Cody?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me again. Good. I'm glad to be here.
Good. Well, your interview was really well received. I think already over 800 people have watched the video. It's definitely going to go over 1,000. I loved it. I made it one of the top interviews of the year. So you made the top calls that we've done in 2018. And I even added it to the all-time greats. Because I just thought it was.
That's a big deal.
That is a big deal. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no. But it was just this great organic conversation. You know, while we had done a little bit of prep and we kind of knew the topics we wanted to cover, I just thought it was a great conversation. And I think you epitomize, call it the $100 million producer that's high tech, high touch, and you're doing all the right things, brother. So congratulations. Man. So for those that didn't see that interview, Cody is a $100 million per year producer, leads a team based out of the Seattle area. Highly recommend you listen to that interview. The goal here is not to do a repeat on that, although we're going to go a little deeper on some of the topics, but highly recommend that. Also, we transcribed it because there were some scripts in there, and we put that in LinkedIn. So there's a LinkedIn article dedicated to that interview where I pulled apart what did I think were some of the big takeaways, documented a few of the scripts. Todd, anything you want to comment on that before we go and review the questions from our Facebook group?
No, I just want to say thanks. I mean, as a geek of the mortgage world, who's coaching and still leads a big team, I love what you're doing because you're adding so much value to the community with all the LinkedIn articles you're doing. I think that's a huge help because ultimately people are busy. They don't always get time to watch the videos. Although I watched it, I just sped it up to 1.5 speed, and it's just a great way. So I'm super excited to dig in and talk to Cody about what he's doing, and excited for all the people that I see here. Hopefully we'll get some good questions so we can get whatever it is that you guys want to know from Cody, especially those of you who listened to the first interview. Let's answer your questions, and then everyone else jump in because it's going to be a fun ride here.
Well, Todd, I'm going to give you the first question for Cody, but before I do that, I just want to go through announcements. So I'm shining a light on our Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind Facebook group. There's some posts that we put at the top that I want everybody to take a look at. And this first one, Todd, this was for you a couple days ago, just talking about kind of the new reality of the mortgage business. A couple weeks ago, we had Zillow entering the mortgage business. This week, we had Redfin entering the mortgage business. So that might make the conversations with Cody, but I want to just shine a light on it for the community. Comment, put your comments in chat here. And then if you would like me and Todd to make it a bigger topic, we'll be happy to do that. But I did want to shine a light on that because I think it's newsworthy. I want to remind folks, we did, transcribe this. We did create a LinkedIn article. Make sure you check that out. For any of the branch managers on today's call, I'm just getting a lot of questions. I've always got a lot of questions about how to improve production, how to mentor and support my team to do more loans. But I'm getting more and more questions on how do I have a more profitable branch? How do I, have a more profitable, how do I teach my loan officers to be more intentional, more profitable? And so I started interviewing branch managers from the Mortgage Coach community, and I interviewed Jim McQuaig. He's got a big branch, $300 million a year branch in the Washington, D.C. market. All of his loan officers use Mortgage Coach and the Total Cost Analysis. And we just talked about profitability and production. So check that out. By the way, I am looking for more branch managers to interview. So I want to do a whole series on profits and production and how branch managers can build profitable, successful branches. So check that out. Let's see here. We had a question, and I think this will just make kind of the organic conversation here, but it says, hello, everybody, longtime follower, first time post. I saw at one point some really good tips on making annual review phone calls to past customers, but I'm having trouble finding that. Can anybody point me in the right direction? So one, John, I will make sure after this call that we point you in the right direction and give you some other calls to listen to. But let's make sure we make that a topic at some point, and we get Cody's scripting and thoughts. Sound good?
Yeah, good by me.
All right, so that's housekeeping. I want to remind everybody who's watching this call, in this call, we try to make it as interactive as possible. So if you have a question for Cody, post it either on Facebook or post it in Zoom, and we will bring it into the conversation. And then also make sure you're being active, asking questions, adding comments in our Facebook group. And with that said, Todd, I'm going to hand it off to you for the first questions for Cody.
Awesome. So excited to see, Cody, kind of how you've grown over the past, number of years since we met back in the day. Can you just real quick give just the 60-second snapshot of, kind of your business, like units, dollars, and your team for those who didn't listen to the previous interview?
Yeah, you bet. So last year we did 270 units for 102 million. Previous year was 302 units for 98.5. So, we obviously that was an interesting transition, right? Do a little bit more in volume, but significantly less in units, and that's a function of our market where we're at, right? Seattle is a pretty hot housing market. Housing prices are going up. We've made a concentrated effort to get a little bit more towards the city and increase our loan size amount as well. Team-wise, I have two front-end coordinators where they do pre-approval and manage the pre-approval pipeline. And then I've got two guys that do the back end, so contract to close, that help manage the borrower expectations, the processing, underwriting, and closing. I've got a team captain that oversees everything, that runs our pipeline, and you, generally speaking, is responsible for taking care of fires, putting on the hat and picking up the hose and putting out fires. And then I've got an executive assistant that runs my schedule and filters my email, and a dialer that makes outbound phone calls for follow-up on leads and agents.
Yeah, and I just love it, right? So you've got a big team. And so just folks, those of you who don't have a big team like Cody has, he and I are also going to talk about what he's doing and how he would do it if you were just a one-man show, right? If you didn't have the whole team. And so we're going to kind of run down that path. And, one of the things, I joked about it beforehand, you kind of talk my love language, right? You're all about prioritization. You're all about being proactive. So I know that you prescribe to a certain weekly regimen, as do I. Yours is slightly different. You mind running us through what that looks like?
Absolutely. Yeah. For us, it was very important to put together a proactive schedule of reaching out. And for me, that was generating theme days. And nothing that I've got is necessarily original. It's just all swipe and adapt from other sources. Theme days I pulled from our coaching, the company that coaches me, the core. And so for Monday, for me, that's calling realtors and partners, financial planners, CPAs, making outbound phone calls to those folks to give, see what's new with them, tell them a little bit about what's going on in the mortgage world, and just check in. I do that on Mondays because we're following up over a weekend. Generally speaking, most of our agents work over the weekends, open houses, showing houses, getting out there. So it's a great time to check up and check in with them. Tuesdays, we call all of our uncommitted prospects. So that's somebody that's been referred to us that has not applied yet, or even an application that hasn't given us their supporting documents yet. Those are two different call lists, so we call them separately so that we can have the same message to each person. Wednesday is past client database follow-up, so annual mortgage reviews and calling to invite for events or whatever else is going on. Thursdays is twofold. We call all of our committed prospects, so anybody that's pre-approved and out there shopping, because we know new houses hit the market in our neck of the woods on Thursdays and Fridays, and they're planning their tours on Saturdays and Sundays. So it's important for us to be in front of them on that day. And then also that's the day we give our status update for every file we've got in process. So we call the listing agent, the buyer's agent, and the buyers to give them an update. And then on Fridays, I call my VIPs. That's probably my lighter day for number of calls, but I'm more likely to have longer conversations on those days because they're people that, are VIPs, right? They know us, they like us, they trust us, and we have a relationship that transcends business.
All right. And so what's your number of hours minimum per week you're committing to this outbound prospecting?
9 to noon is booked on those days.
All right. Win by noon, guys. See, there's a little bit of a theme here. No wonder Cody speaks my love language, right?
That's right.
So, again, I think it's always hard for people who don't have a team to sort of relate to it, but you're using tools that help you be more efficient when it comes to dialing the phone, when it comes to doing your annual mortgage reviews, all that kind of stuff. Can you run us through a little bit what that toolkit looks like?
Yeah, you bet. And that's important to know, right? I have a big team. And so I have some freedom in my schedule to be able to lock out those 3 hours. But, I've also got a couple of junior loan officers or we call them team loan coordinators on our team. And those guys, they still need to prospect, but they don't need to prospect as much as I do to feed their own personal team, right? They have to prospect to feed themselves. And so, if you're just a single loan officer, maybe start with an hour, right? Start with a power hour once a day where you can do that same thing. And then as you grow it to 2 hours, you can grow it to 3 hours, right? It's really, really important to have that time booked, even if you don't think you're going to take up the entire amount of time with those calls. And so what I have done to be able to get more out of those times is some technology, right? So obviously we use total cost analysis to really dial in the numbers and the reviews. We use Jungo, Salesforce to keep track of our database and build lists to call from. And then Phone Burner has been my secret to success for getting all those phone calls made in a relatively timely manner. On Monday, I had 80 real estate agents and CPAs on my call list. The calls were done in 1 hour and 45 minutes. I spoke to 14 people and I left messages for the rest.
So you guys heard that, right? 80 calls in 1 hour and 45 minutes. So I'll post down below later. I've got a code for Phone Burner where you can get 10% off for life if you use it. So I'll make sure I get you guys that link because it's something I'm hearing over and over again. If you haven't read Bill Hart's book, White Collar Warrior, he's got a guy in there, it's like page 70 something, who's also a friend of mine. And he talks about how he went from $6 million of production in the first half of 2017 and needing a HELOC to pay his bills to second half of 2017, getting Phone Burner, it doesn't mention it in there, and then dialing 128 realtors a week, and how just that 1 hour, he only committed 1 hour a week to dialing, and how it basically he did, instead of doing just 6 million, he did about 36 million in the second half of the year. So six-folded his business by a commitment to do what Cody's talking about. He didn't say you have to do 3 hours like me. He just said, hey, start with 1 hour. So that was huge.
Yeah. Hey, Cody, I want to make sure I got those numbers right because I'm writing it down and making it down here. So you, using Phone Burner, called 80 realtors within 90 minutes, had 17 conversations.
That was
right?
14 that day, and it ranges. I mean, it just depends on the day. This is a holiday week. This Monday was a holiday week, right? So maybe it's a little less, but it usually ranges between about 12 and 20, depending on the day. But it was 14 this week.
Okay, and so that's conversations within a 90-minute period. So here's my question for the group, and I would love for you to share this in comments. If you're in Facebook, share it. How many realtors did you talk to this week? How many conversations did you have? And then, so just share. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. Bring it, community. Share it in chat. Share it in comments. And then I want you, did anybody have more than 14 conversations in a single day? And then, by the way, start thinking about that. Like, okay, how many conversations am I having? If I could have 14 conversations in a single day and do that consistently, I mean, the rockets go off, the business crushes it. It's just a huge takeaway. So first of all, remember guys, the way you get value is to participate. So you're not getting maximum value for this call if you do not share with us how many conversations you're having. Anyways, big takeaway. Great job, buddy. By the way, everybody, check it out. Todd just put his 10% off on Phone Burner. By the way, Todd, do you have some equity or anything in Phone Burner? Just full disclosure here.
I got a buddy of mine whose buddy is the guy at Phone Burner, so that was sort of where it came from. So, it is what it is, and it's it's all good. Let's just spread some love. You know what I love that you said? So you all should know what the number is that you're going to do, right? Activities lead to results, and so you heard Dave talking about it, right? Cody knows how many people he talked to, and so you got to think through what is it that gets you there, right? And so in the end, if you don't know how many dials you need to make in order to get a closed loan, or to at least get a lead and then get an app and then get a closed loan, or you don't know how many conversations you need to have, you've got to start tracking that. So, my two examples of two of the people that I coach, one guy is super consistent. It's 150 dials a week. If he makes 150 dials, and he's not using technology, so I'm going to have to get him on that. But he's dialing by hand the old-fashioned way, and he knows if he makes 150 dials, he's going to close 8 to 12 loans a month. Got another guy who's kind of what Dave just talked about. He's 100 connections a week. He wants 100 between live meetings with people face-to-face and quality conversations over the phone. And he knows then he'll hit his closing goal at the end of the year. So kind of be thinking through that, because that is part of the success formula.
All right.
Yeah.
Roger that. And by the way, we've got some questions and some comments in chat. So by the way, for those of you that did that, great job, guys. So Brad Loudon, and I think you already said it, but he said, who are you being coached with? If you wouldn't mind just repeating that for Brad.
Yeah, you bet. I've been with the core for 5 years. My current coach is Todd Screena.
Roger. By the way, Todd is an awesome human being and a major stud. So Todd, if you're watching, what's up, buddy?
Super smart guy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Such a smart guy. Such a great leader. Big fan. David Porter, great job. Loves Phone Burner. Thank you for sharing your stats. He's like, how many total sessions? How many total answers? Voicemails left. Obviously, Dave, you were getting after it. Good job, buddy.
Hey, Dave, can I add something right there to that one? One of the other best things about that, and for clarity's sake too, I have no stake in Phone Burner. I just love it. The other thing about it is when you do graduate and you have somebody making some calls for you, you can get a call report. You can get the list of everyone they called, how long they were on the phone with them, if they left them a message, and how long the conversation was. So it's a way to be able to cross-check your dialer or that person that's making those calls, a junior loan officer, a team loan officer, somebody else that needs some accountability to what they've done. It's a great way to get a report and know exactly what they did.
Love that. And again, remember, you can put the data in. It's your call list. So it helps you hold others accountable, and it also helps you hold yourself accountable. I love that. And you're using technology to sell more. Love that. So Mark Stillman said, what do you say to the new realtors? They do not want to hear about loan programs, pricing, how good you are. They do not want marketing products like Listing Booster. They are no longer impressed by quick closing. What are your value? By the way, he said, other than Mortgage Coach, what is your value proposition? So I assume you're using Mortgage Coach as one of your value props.
It is.
But
yeah.
what are you saying? So to speak to this question.
Yeah. So, I can answer that. But to clarify, the 80 calls on Monday, for me, those are not brand new realtors. Those are people that we have some sort of relationship with. Either they're a channel account and they refer us a lot of business. They're, maybe a 234 account, 234 loan account per year, or there's somebody that we had a transaction with recently that we're trying to get an appointment with. But they're not brand new. These are not people that don't know who I am. So that said, as far as value proposition, it's really about who we are, how we operate, what we do, and our reputation in the marketplace. And so generally speaking, we're selling this to people that have had an experience with us and they know how it went, right? The value proposition, yes, it used to be a quick close, right? That was a necessary thing, being able to close in 3 weeks. One of our value propositions is a pre-underwrite, right? So we take pre-qualification to pre-approval to actually underwriting the file so that we can have a 3-week close. But more importantly than the quick close, we have the solidity of the file being through underwriting so that the seller and the listing agent know that even though they don't know me and they don't know how good I am and they don't know what kind of job I do, somewhere some underwriter has stamped it and said, yes, this is a doable deal, right? That helps us get deals all the time. And then, from a customer perspective, it's the communication piece, right? So staying in constant communication. I tell them about our weekly Thursday updates. I show them our JuneGo system that has workflows and automated emails so that they're constantly being updated inside of the transaction. And, and I just tell them that we're a team, right? Whether you're on the listing side or the buy side, the three of us are a team to get this deal closed. And when something happens, we circle the wagons and figure it out rather than going dark and not communicating.
So I want to say one thing, and then I want to ask two more questions, and I'll get it back to you, Todd. So by the way, Cody, because he delivers a total cost to everybody, because he uses his CRM, because he consistently talks to, he has days where he talks to 10 realtors, he's good and he's confident. So the way he shows up, even though, a lot of those value props, fast closing, they're things that other people do. But when you're talking to 10 plus realtors in a single day, you get good at it, you get confident, and you are able to talk differently. So I just want to wrap that. But then I do want a script from you, Cody. I want two scripts. I'm going to ask one, when you're doing that, calling people you already have a relationship with, just give us a 1 minute opening. Let that hey, this is Cody, boom, boom, boom. And then I'm going to ask you to transition. When you do call a new realtor, give us the first minute. So ring, ring, you're calling that 80 people from, recently.
Sure. Yeah. So again, these are folks that I have a relationship with most of the time. So, get them on the horn, ring them up. They say hello. And, it's just introduction. It's Cody Touchette, Caliber Home Loans. I just wanted to check in with you after the weekend. I wanted to see, did you work or did you take some time off? Right. Because again, these people expect me to be calling, it's part of the gig now. And so, asking that question is fun because then they get to tell me if they did something fun or if they were working. If they did something fun, that's great. We go down that rabbit hole and see what they did and how it went. And then usually I will loop that back to some sort of something that's happening, right? So either, man, did you see the news about Redfin this week? Did you see the news about whoever? And then we talk about that. We do every once in a while, we'll tell them about a great new program that we have, but we don't stop at programs, right? I mean, everybody's got a hot new program, but what I want to do is I want to explain to them how that means they close more business, right? So when I host a lunch and learn, when we talk to them on the phone, anything that I do when I talk to an agent is I want to explain to them and put it in no uncertain terms how that means they close more deals, right? And so I want them to associate me with closing more deals, all right? And so if they worked over the weekend, hot dog, that's a great excuse for us to chat about their open house and if they got anybody that needs following up and that sort of thing. So, it's really not, I don't know, it's not really so much a sales pitch as a check-in and seeing how we can help.
Well, and I love that because it's not that difficult, right? You don't have to have a team to make those calls that Cody's doing, and Cody is committed to do it, right? He said they expect my call every week. And so just be thinking about that. If you're not building something like this into your week, how you can do it starting today.
Yeah. And one thing I want to just put an exclamation mark around, principle number 2 in our lead conversion playbook is to make yourself Amazon mortgage proof. And by the way, I think we need to add a footnote and real estate company that owns a mortgage company proof. You need to double down on your humanity. And so I really like the fact that, he started off the conversation. Hey, how you doing? Did you work this week or did you do something fun? Because by the way, call center loan officer is not going to do that. Call center loan officer is going to have a process where they're driving an agenda. And by the way, even if they asked that question, they're not going to care like Cody cares. So everybody in this call, if you're a referral-based local loan officer, make sure you're, high tech, high touch. And that's one thing I love about Cody is he epitomizes, everything he does is high touch, emotional engagement. And everything he does is how do I use technology to talk to more people and to have a better experience with the people that I do talk to. So Cody, ring, ring, I'm a new agent. How does that sound?
Yeah, so I always try to get some sort of social proof with a new agent, right? So I hopped on LinkedIn, I hop on Facebook, I see who they know that we know together, and I look for some sort of recommendation, right? So it's just linking that together, right? Hey, I was talking with Kelsey over at Fidelity Title, and she mentioned that I should reach out to you and touch base. I hear you're doing great things in the marketplace. I've heard of you, but I'm embarrassed to say that we've actually never met. And I just would love to get a chance to come and meet you, bring you coffee, and see if there's anything that in our business that we do, systems and processes, that might add to your business.
Loved it. So notice everybody he's talking to, he's showing them, he knows them, so I mean, that is, and by the way, how many new agents are you reaching out to on a weekly, monthly basis? Is that something you still do a lot of?
Yeah. So as part of the coaching program, I have a form that I need to turn in that has 10 cold calls on it every 2 weeks. So basically one per work day. I've got to reach out to somebody that I do not know, that does not expect my call, that is not expecting to hear from me, and make an outbound phone call and use a script just like that last one to try to get an appointment.
So wait a minute, everybody, let's take a pause. And Cody's doing $100 million a year in volume. He's killing it. And he's still every single day calling a new agent and saying, I need new relationships. And I kind of throw that back to the audience. How many new realtors did you call this week? When is the last time you called a new realtor? So, couple takeaways, if you're not talking to 10 realtors weekly, if you're not calling new realtors 5 a week, you're not on that path to optimize whatever it is your opportunity is. So Todd, I'm going to pass it off to you for questions. Sit back here. I just wanted to make sure we got those questions from the audience plugged in.
No worries. I'm going to replug Dave's LinkedIn article that he did when he transcribed his last interview with Cody, because we're getting some questions from people with regards to Cody's schedule and what he does. And Dave has done a great job of actually transcribing it for you. So if you didn't take notes fast enough, go to LinkedIn, look up Dave Savage, and you will see the article there. Dave's throwing it on the screen now. We started off, Dave, you talking about annual mortgage reviews at the beginning of the call. Cody, you do something that I've not heard anyone else doing, which is 2 a year for some of your clients. Can you walk through your annual mortgage review process? Who do you do it for once? Who do you do it for twice? What percentage of your database is that? And what does that process and phone call sound like?
Sure. Yeah, no doubt. We do a semi-annual mortgage review, and that's for all of our clients that have closed in the last 4 years. So then that ends up being, in the neighborhood of 500-600 per year. So the way that call goes is, and after the first one, it's a lot easier because I already have a TCA built for them, right? So all we have to do is update it. It's pretty quick. But the way the call goes is, we reach out to them, pleasantries, right? Check in, how's the house, how's everything going? Anything changed in your life, right? That's when we get to find out if they're having a kid or maybe a divorce, right? You hate to say it, but it happens a lot. We're doing a number of refinances right now for divorcing couples. Maybe a kid's going to college, maybe they're, whatever it is that they're open to talking about. And that's great, right? Because it kind of leads us down the path. After that, we let them know, hey, we've done an analysis and your rate and your mortgage is here. I've got a new 30-year fixed proposed, and it doesn't appear that saves us any money. So, you're at 3.75, the going rate's at 4.75, and you're in great shape there. I've also prepared an analysis at 15 years because you never know when things change, right? And the tax law change that's coming into effect for people that will be filing their taxes for 2018. A lot of people that don't necessarily realize it yet will not be able to write off their interest on their mortgage, right? That they've raised the standard deduction to a level that interest is no longer going to be greater than the standard deduction for a married couple. So if you're no longer getting a tax advantage from paying your mortgage slowly, maybe it's smarter to pay it off faster, right? So we take a look at a 15. Does a 15 make some sense? Also like to have a 5-1 or 7-1 arm on there as well. A lot of times people say, hey, we want to get moving in the next year or two, but we got to stay put to finish out college or finish out high school for, little Jimmy or whatever. Jimmy's going to be done with high school in 2 years, and then they're going to want to move to Arizona or back east or wherever they were from before. Maybe a 7-1 arm or an interest-only 7-1 arm saves them $400, $500, $600 a month, and that's big money to them right now while they're preparing to send a kid to college, right? So just having those 3 scenarios already pre-built so that I can roll with the punches of whatever's happening in their life makes that call go super great, and I've already totally prepared. And my team does those, right? So again, I have a team, so I've utilized my front side guys, and they prepare those numbers, and then I jump in and make that call. If none of those make sense, that's great, right? That means we've managed your mortgage. You're in great shape. There's nothing that needs to be done. Then the rest of the conversation goes down to two or three other paths, right? Have you thought about a second home, right? Obviously, you know, our market's booming. Is it something that you'd like to help create memories for your families and maybe possibly get some appreciation as well? Yes, no, we move forward from there. Great. Hey, real estate investing has been a big part of my life for the last 5 or 6 years. I'd love to share with you what I'm doing and see if you have any interest in buying an investment property, right? You've got some cash. You've got a mountain of equity we could tap into if you wanted to. Is it something you're interested in, right? And if that is a database maker too, right? Because now you've got a past client, but they've also shown interest in buying investment properties. And we do a couple of investment property classes or meetups every month. And now we're filling the seats at those events as well. But then beyond that, then it's, you know, who do you know that's going to be buying or selling a house in the next 6 months? Right. And the script there is important, right? And I think a lot of us will know this, but for those that don't, if I say, do you know anyone that's going to buy a house in the next 6 months? It's very easy to say no. When I say, who do you know that's going to buy a house in the next 6 months? It immediately starts people thinking, who do I know? Now they can still say, I don't know anyone, but they're more likely to take a pause and think about it than to just say no.
So I love that. So let's just get really tactical on the details. So team member for you is updating the TCA. You're making the phone call. Are you sending any emails out ahead of time to warn them that you're going to call? Is there a follow-up process if you don't get them, or a voicemail you're leaving if they're there? Are you going to call them 2 or 3 more times, or kind of what does the rest of the process look like?
Yeah, that's great. Well, we set it up in the purchase, right? So we tell them, hey, we're going to do this, right? It's a promise of ours to them that we're going to not just close a loan and forget about them. We're going to stay in touch. We're going to be there. We're going to manage their mortgage for them. And that's, you know, talk about unique selling proposition or value proposition. That's a great way to win at application as well. That's something that we offer that not a lot of other people even talk about, right? So it's one more value piece. And what I tell people too, right, and this is where the rate conversation comes into play, is when somebody's comparing us against so-and-so lender for an eighth better, you know, I tell them that, hey, I'm going to be here for you for the long run. I don't know about that other company. Maybe they'll be in business, maybe they won't. But what I'm promising you is that my ideas and my strategies are going to be worth way more than 1/8% in rate to you over time, right? Because right now, we just, great example, the tax plan, right? The tax plan came in, and if you're not thinking about it, that, hey, maybe it does make sense to pay off my mortgage faster and get a 15-year mortgage, because he's right, I'm not going to be able to write off my tax interest anymore, right?
So are you automatically then emailing them the TCA if you don't talk to them, or do they have that before you talk to them, or is that just part of the conversation?
Yeah, no, that's great. I don't usually send it out ahead of time, because if I send it ahead of time and they review it and there's nothing really to talk about, then they're less likely to take my call. So I call them and I leave a message, and then I will text them, right? Because this world, right, you just never know what somebody's best method of communication is going to be, unless we've already got it in our CRM, which one is best. And if it's text, I just start off with a text, right? So, and that's an important thing, right? Like the other day I had to talk to one of my team members about how they responded to a customer, right? The customer emailed in and they said, well, I called them and left a message and sent them a text. I said, did you email? Well, no. I was like, okay, well, they told you already that their preferred method of communication on this particular issue is email. Email them back, right? So I like to make sure that we have that, and we've got a box in our CRM that says preferred method of communication. And so we do that, right? And so, yeah, I don't regularly send them the numbers because I don't want them to review them without me.
So I want to add something to this, because again, every time when I interviewed you, I was just like, checks the box, best practice. You know, this is principle number 3 in the lead conversion playbook, where it's always been the loan officer with the most friends wins, but now it's the loan officers with the most digital friends wins. And so Cody, notice, just high touch, high tech. He knows what their communication preference is. He's noting it, and he's executing that way. The families are downloading his total cost analysis app. So now he's got an advice platform with that client. He knows if they want text, email, Facebook. By the way, Cody, are you seeing more people communicating in Facebook Messenger? Just curious.
We are.
And are you guys using Facebook Messenger strategically?
We are not as much as I could be, and you know, when it first started happening, I was bummed by it a little bit, because I was like, man, if I'm gonna lose something, it's gonna be a Facebook Messenger thing, right? Like, how often does people check their Facebook now, right? And you're like, oh yeah, I saw that. I'll remember to get back to it. With an email, I leave it in my inbox until it's dealt with. With this one, you know, it's a little different. So what I've taken to do is screenshotting it and emailing or text it to myself so that it stays on top of mind, because you have to conform to the preferred method of communication. Otherwise, you might risk losing that client. And I'm embarrassed to say that's the one where I have lost a communication string once or twice, because it just gets buried in all the other stuff.
Yeah, but I am seeing that more often, and I'm also hearing strategies where loan officers are using Facebook Messenger to get to realtors. You know, so like a realtor that's super accessible on, you know, Facebook. Hey, they're getting emails and texts from everybody, but hey, put a video and send it to them on Messenger, or, you know, a voice message, you know, using that channel to get through to agents. Have you done that yet? I'm just curious.
I have, yeah. And there's a couple of agents in my marketplace that I cannot get on the phone, won't text me back. But when I send them a messenger or either a video or a text messenger, I get a response.
Yeah, anyways, interesting. Yeah. Back to you, Todd.
Well, one quick side note on Messenger. You know, again, all of you, well, some of you know, we started this off as a Insane Productivity, Darren Hardy's product. And one of the things that we all did on those original calls was turn off all of our notifications. I will tell you the only thing that still has notifications now, because I added it back just like Cody. I lost the deal because I didn't respond in Messenger. I forgot about it. So I actually still have today that on, but it's still my weakest point because I'm not on Facebook very much. So keep that in mind. You know, you might need it for a short term, but I love your hack of sending a photo of it. I think that's really cool. And if anyone else here is using Messenger at a high level, like Dave was mentioning, we would love to hear it. That would be super helpful for the group to know what you're doing. You know, as far as, so, you know, I love the fact too, I'm going to highlight that he's sending different options, right? Because he doesn't know before he calls the person what may spark their interest. And, you know, if you start off and do annual reviews and you haven't done them, number one is Cody has a discipline of doing them, right? Number two is that probably if you haven't done them before, like he said, oh, I catch, unfortunately, people in divorce. Well, you're going to catch people who said, oh, I already got divorced. Sorry, I forgot about you because you didn't reach out to me and I already bought a home and used someone else. So be okay with that. But that's part of the reason you want to start now is life moves fast. People are changing. And so keep that in mind, right? Any other tips on that, Cody, before we move on to something else?
Yeah. You know, one great thing that you mentioned there too is that anytime it sounds funny, but anytime I make a new friend, I ask them if anybody's monitoring their mortgage, right? So we're adding people to the database as well that are not our past clients, but now they're becoming part of our past client database so that we can keep an eye on their mortgage. So any of our new loan officers in the branch, any of our team loan officers, I'm having them do the exact same thing and, you know, call through the folks that they know, either on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever platform you use where you have your contacts, call them and find out if you can manage their mortgage for them, right? If you've got their mortgage information, you can build them a TCA and monitor their mortgage and keep an eye on things for them. And if you do that, if you stay in touch every 6 months, chances are good you're going to get them either during or just before one of those big life events.
Something I want to add to that, a new feature within Jungo is automating the mortgage review. So you can now go into Jungo, pick everybody that you closed, you know, in August of last year and send out a total cost analysis comparing a 15-year loan, you know, some type of 30-year loan. And what if you prepaid your mortgage by $200? So literally, and Cody, you're going to love this feature because I know you've got 2,000 customers and you're really putting people and resources around 500 of them. But now, you know, with like 15 minutes of a team member's time, they can make sure, you know, you're starting that conversation with everybody. Yeah. You know, and who knows, you may not want to send that to the 200 or excuse me, to the 500 because you want to make a round of getting them on the phone. But I do recommend, you know, every mortgage professional, if you're a referral based local mortgage pro, annual mortgage reviews, like, let me put it this way. If you were playing poker, you know, a pair is a pair, three of a kind's good, full house is great, you know, royal flush is the best. And when it comes to marketing to your past customers, the annual mortgage review, or in Cody's case, the semi-annual mortgage review, that's the royal flush. I mean, that is tangible value to the consumer. And if you're not doing it, I'm really going to use the metaphor. It's like you're doing a lot of things that are like, you're literally walking over dollar bills or $100 bills to pick up dimes and quarters. So make sure everybody on this call, a hallmark of the best, and make sure you're taking action on that.
One thing to keep in mind too on this is that these calls are not regularly generating the refinance of that mortgage, right? They're generating leads to friends that need this sort of service. They're generating leads to friends that are buying houses, right? We're in a market where you're not going to see near as many, well, you're not going to see hardly any rate-driven refinances, right? So you might look at a cash-out refinance. You might look at some sort of purpose-driven refinance, removing somebody from title, doing something like that. But the rate-driven refinances are all but gone now. But by doing this, you're also having a lot of other opportunities for transactions that aren't necessarily refinancing that one. But doing the annual mortgage review gives you the reason for the call.
Yeah, and by the way, everybody, you're also getting referrals that you can give back to realtors, to CPAs, to financial planners, so that you are the captain of the wealth team. I'm sure in Cody's market, among the financial planners that he has, the realtors that he has, they look at this guy because he does such a great job with his database and he executes the business so well, and he's bringing them referrals because he's consistently delivering this service. So it really is, I think it should be the number one priority. If you're a referral-based local LO, if you make that your number one priority, you're going to kill it with realtors. You're going to have this, perpetual, residual income database. And you really don't have to worry if Redfin is getting in the mortgage space. You do not have to worry when the news comes out that Amazon is in the mortgage space. You're just like, so what? I'm managing, I've got 1,000 families where I am their go-to guy, and I've connected with them emotionally. I use technology to scale. You have nothing to worry about. You just have all upside in this business. Back to you, Todd.
So let's switch gears for a minute. There's no questions. Cody, talk about the investment property strategy that you have, specifically around, you said that you're running a couple events a month, and I'm hearing that you're scripting that in. What does that look like? I know you own a lot of property as a result coming out of the crash. Walk us through what you're doing.
Yeah, you bet. So as part of the crash, I was, fell victim like everyone else. I had a lot of extra time on my hands and, needed to find a way to keep the bills rolling, right? So I started doing some flips. I started flipping some houses. That got me connected up with the investor base in our local area. That was a fun project during the time where it was available. And then, 2011 hit, we got a first-time homebuyer tax credit. Rates were low. People started buying again. I didn't really have the time for it anymore. So I had a couple that I still had in the works, and they made better rentals than flips. And so I held on to them and I started accumulating there. I have 24 local units in the Seattle area. And then I just bought an 18-unit apartment complex in Oklahoma City. So 42 total units. So it gives me instant credibility to talk to either already seasoned real estate investor or somebody that is looking to get in. I love working with both, but it's really fun to kind of get somebody's mind wrapped around the principles of finance and the principles of real estate investing and watch the light bulbs come on and actually take a step forward and do it. Actually just had a conversation yesterday. A guy texted in and said, hey, you referred to me by this agent. I'd love to chat with you about buying a house. I'm moving up from California. Texted him back, set a time, made a call. In that conversation, he told me he had about a $200,000 gain that he was going to sell his place in California, wanted to move to our area, buy about a $500,000 house. I asked him if he, when I see this, to me, bells go off and I'm like, okay, great. I've got a prospective investor, right? This is somebody that's got more money than they need on their next purchase and they've got cash in the bank, right? I don't have to convince them to do a cash out refinance on something they already owe. And I don't have to convince them to use their savings to go and buy a rental property, right? This is effectively found money from the sale of real estate where they didn't necessarily have that money to start with. And now they've got a couple $100,000 to work with. That's one of my favorite things. So I asked him, I said, hey, are you committed to pouring all of these funds back into the new purchase, or do you have some other things you want to hold them aside for? You know, thinking maybe there's an auto loan. I haven't got this guy's application yet. So maybe there's an auto loan to pay off some student loans, credit cards, whatever. He said, we have no other debt. I don't need the money for anything else. I just want to pour it in because I'm really concerned about my monthly payment. And I said, okay, great. Are you interested? I said, real estate investing is a big part of my life and I really am passionate about it. Is it something you would like to have a conversation on? Are you interested in investing in real estate? And his first take was, yes, I'm very interested, but I don't think I can. I don't think the numbers work out because I'm really concerned about my payment. And I said, okay, great. Let's just talk, 10,000 foot level. And this, if this works for you, great. If it weren't interested, then we can stop conversation. But since you're interested, let's go down that rabbit hole and see where it comes, right? So what we talked about was if you put an extra $100,000 down on your purchase of your $500,000 house, you're going to save about $500 to $550 per month, right? That's about where interest is. So $500 to $550 per month worth of savings is what you're going to get by putting that extra $100,000 down. If instead you took that $100,000 and bought a $400,000 fourplex at 25% down, if that cash flowed you net of everything, right? Net of expenses, net of management, net of vacancy factor, net of maintenance, if that cash flowed you $1,200 a month, would you prefer that versus a $500 less payment on your mortgage? And he's quiet for a minute. He's like, man, that really sounds good, right? And I said, and so I don't want to pull the wool over your eyes, right? Like I want you to understand you're signing up for 2 mortgages versus the one lower one that you thought. This one's $500 more than you were expecting. But when times are good and everything's going right, you're going to be $700 ahead by buying this fourplex. Also, do you feel like the market is still going to remain strong for the next few years? He said, I think it's slowing down, but I think it's going to keep going up. I said, me too. So if we're right, now you've got 2 boats afloat instead of just one. So if you bought one $500,000 house and things doubled in the next 10 years, right? I don't know if that's what's going to happen. Let's say it does. That means you've got $1 million worth of house. That's great. But if you instead buy $900,000 worth of houses and they double in the next 10 years, now you got $1.8 million, right? And by the way, during that time frame, someone else was paying off that mortgage and putting an extra $700 a month in your pocket. Does that sound appealing? He said, it really does, right? And I said, and the reason why I say a fourplex is if we put you into a single family house with a $2,000 payment and you have a vacancy, then you're on the hook, right? You got to pay your whole payment and you got to pay that whole payment. If I put you into a fourplex and one of those units goes vacant, the other 3 pay the payment, right? Your 4th unit is usually your profit. And usually what I find is 2.5 units pay the payment, right? So if you happen to have a vacancy, you're not going to be stuck, right? You're going to probably be able to cash flow just fine. So he was very excited about it. I texted the agent back, asked him to call me, let him know about our conversation, right? And so now, now he's not only got somebody that we've secured and they're part of our they're part of our database now. He told me, he said he was going to interview 3 loan officers and apply with 3 different people. And I told him, I said, well, at the end of our conversation, I don't think that's what's happening anymore, right? Like, I really don't believe that he's going to apply with 3 folks. He later called me back and said, you're right. He's just going to work with you, that we've got him nailed down, right? So I've secured this buyer for this agent. I've secured him for us. And I've probably put another $12,000 worth of commission in his pocket because we talked about the fourplex, not just a single family. Oh, I lost your volume, Todd.
Hey, Todd, you're on mute, buddy. Todd, can you hear us? All right. So first of all, that is awesome. Great job, Cody. If anybody has questions for Cody, we are at the 10-minute mark. So we've got 11 minutes left in today's call. If you have questions for Cody, bring them in. I do want to let everybody know, while Cody's been talking, I have taken links to videos and articles that are on point, and I have put those both in the Facebook group chat. So they're referenced after the call. And for anybody that's in Zoom right now, I put links to those. I did add a link to an interview I did with Josh Metal called 5 Traits of the Millionaire Mortgage Professional, which is absolutely one of the all-time greatest mortgage coach calls. And Josh talks about his journey as a real estate investor and mortgage coach pro. So check that out. Hey, Todd, we can hear you, by the way. Are you back?
Off and I can't, my webinar's getting chopped off.
All right, I'm muting you back, Todd. Todd, we can hear you. So it looks like he had an internet challenge. You're back, buddy, and we can hear you. Todd? No? All right. So we will roll without Todd. So let's see what questions we got. I know I had a bunch. All right. So you talked about open houses earlier. What are you offering to physically be at the open house to take applications? And what do you offer if they say they can use your help with an open house?
Yeah, sure. Depends on the open house, but yeah, we do. I've got 2 other LOs on my team, and a couple of my guys are aspiring to be LOs. And so I'd say, hey, there's no finer way than to jump right in, right? You know, my guys that are on the contract to close side have closed, you know, hundreds and hundreds of loans. So they probably know a lot more about getting loans done than some other LOs out there, right? So they've got good experience, even though they're licensed, but they're not technically loan officers. So I say, if you guys want to sit these and go get the leads, you know, we'll figure that out, you know, in the interim. But it's a great experience for you to get into that realm of being a loan officer. So between myself and a couple other guys on my team, we can staff a couple of open houses every weekend. And what I did to get us in the door there as well, and to bring a little extra value, was I purchased a bunch of signs, right? So I bought a bunch of either directional or just open, excuse me, open house signs. They're red and white, and they're, you know, easily available on Amazon. And we hire a guy, a couple of high school age kids that go out and place these signs the day of the event, right? So an hour or so before and an hour or so after, they go out, place the signs, and then go pick them up. I bought the signs; they're my inventory. But we share in the cost of the placing of them, right? So that ranges between $100 to $150. So the agent pays $50 to $75, and they get 75 to 80 signs that direct people to their open house. We also have a couple of feather banners that go out at the driveway to bring people in, and then a banner that goes across the garage, if there is one, that says open house, right? So these directional signs usually double or triple the volume of what people see inside of their open houses. We've done a couple of experiments where Saturday they didn't have the signs and Sunday they did, and vice versa, so we could try to get a good sample. And generally speaking, it's about 2.5 times the volume of people that they see from having signs versus not having the signs. We have enough of inventory to do 2 per week or 2 per day, so we can do 2 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday if we needed to or wanted to. Generally speaking, we always do financing flyers, and we come in with water bottles and snacks and that kind of stuff. We did one this summer where we did barbecue, where, you know, we had burgers and dogs, and that was a pretty great event. We don't do that every time. But then, you know, also, you know, knowing the house, knowing the project, right? We did one where we had it was a bit of a fixer, and so we did a 203K and a home style renovation flyer for it, and talked to people about the ability to build in renovation dollars into their purchase, and most of them had no idea.
Love it. So by the way, could you say lead machine? I mean, he's basically staffing and supporting open houses as a lead machine. I did put a link to the last interview I did with Nicole Solari, you know, an agent that did 197 units last year, and her #1 lead source was open houses. And she would have loved everything you said. She would have been like, love you, Cody. Yeah. By the way, she's one of Jeremy Forcier's top agents. And I would say add to that is make the actual open house a digital open house. So the way she's capturing leads at the open house, she's getting a lot more leads in terms of how she's capturing them. And then she's using Mortgage Coach as a prop on an iPad to help get leads. So a couple things to add on. And remember, folks, check out that interview. So we've only got about 6 minutes left. And I want to close out on the theme that we speak directly to either the new loan officer that doesn't have a team, and they're new, so of course they don't have a team, or let's just say loan officer that's been doing this forever, doing it for a long time, but they don't have a team. And what should they be doing? You know, like, what can they do to take some of your ideas and strategies, but, you know, give it directly to the new LO or the LO that doesn't have a team that wants a team?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first is treat it like a business, right? A lot of people get into either mortgage or real estate to have a freedom of schedule. And what ends up being is they don't do any work, right? And I'm just going to say it plain because that's how I was, right? I mean, 18 years ago, I quit a corporate job and jumped into mortgage because I wanted to be able to be my own boss and write my own schedule. And what it meant was I screwed around a lot, right? And I didn't work. So for me, it's get to the office, be there, show up, be present, be ready to work, and then have a time block, right? Know exactly how your day's going to go and stick to it, right? And that's hard, right? It's still hard for me to stick to a time block, but if I didn't have it, it would be impossible, right? So, building a time block where you've got time in the morning for yourself, right? Work out, journal, do your thing, do your morning activity, morning routine, get to the office. What I have is I've got about a half an hour of, biz baz with my team, say hello, do that kind of stuff, get some water, and then kind of think about the script for what I'm going to call that day. And then again, my calling structure is based so that it can be efficient. I have a themed day. I know pretty much my message for my entire amount of calls that day, right? Today I'm calling realtors. I know exactly what I'm going to say pretty much to everyone. The next day I'm calling uncommitted prospects, right? I know exactly what I'm going to say to try to get these folks to apply. And I don't have to think about now I'm calling a realtor and now I'm calling a financial planner and now I'm calling a new lead and now I'm calling a lead that we already got pre-approved, because that gets you going in a million different directions. Focus your efforts in on, and again, in your initial call block, right? Whether it be an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours, depending on your size, make sure that that's a concentrated effort on the folks that you know what you're doing right there. Then the second half of the day, in Todd's process of Win by Noon, I got a very similar schedule or idea from a real estate agent that did 90 listings in 90 days, right? That was their thing, right? They only prospected from 9 to noon. And then after that, you could start your day, right? So then you can go to an inspection, then you can take a loan out, then you can do other stuff, but you're hardcore prospecting for this particular time frame, right? So being present, being in business, right? Building a schedule that you can stick to, and then making the calls and having yourself accountable to the calls some way, shape, or form. Write them down, right? When I first started coaching, that was one of the big exercises we did. We used what's called the greatness tracker. And I have to write down every single in-person meeting I have, every single lunch or coffee I have, and every single phone call I make. The idea is to get to 60 good phone calls per week. And I thought, oh man, that's going to be cake. I do that, no problem. By the end of the first week, I had 15 phone calls, right? I didn't have the structure and the setup that I have now. And I said, well, Jesus, something's got to change, right? I'm not going to make it through this coaching program because I thought I was busy this week. And what I did was I moved a bunch of emails around, and I wasn't busy. I was making myself busy, and I wasn't doing things that produced dollars. I made 15 decent phone calls that week. Now I make 60 to 80. So, just doubling that, tripling that, quadrupling your call volume will absolutely explode your business.
Love that. So much gold, so much wisdom. I would remind everybody of this call. Every Friday, we're doing a mastermind like this. Every Tuesday, 9 o'clock, I'm interviewing someone amazing. I'm interviewing Casey Cunningham this Tuesday, 9 o'clock. So coming out of the holiday, she's going to do the 4 pillars. I don't know if it's top producers or elite loan officers, but from Casey Cunningham, Xenix's perspective, what are the 4 pillars to success this Tuesday at 9 o'clock? Todd, I'm going to let you wrap up the call. If you can unmute and tell us what we should do to take action and make the most of it.
All right. So you've been drinking from a fire hose, right? 2 things you got to do first. One is re-listen to Cody's interview from last week, because there'll be a little bit additional information, and then re-listen to this one from this week, because you've got to take the takeaways from it. And while you're doing that, have Dave's LinkedIn article there. Again, it walks through Cody's week. It walks through what he does. And then just think, right? You don't need to do all of these things that Cody is doing, right? When you're a $100 million producer with a team, you can do it. Just start with one thing, right? Cody said it, right? I mean, again, these are my pages of notes from listening to stuff. Treat it like a business. I would start there and pick that first thing that you can do and block off your time. I think if you start with that one basic piece, then that's going to get you rolling. Because ultimately what I find is most of us spend our day reacting first and then trying to be proactive later, and then we never get to that stuff. So if you can actually do those things that are most important like Cody does, then you'll absolutely crush it. So it was great catching up again, Cody. It's been too long.
No doubt.
Being here. And reach out, let us know how we can help, and looking forward to being back online with you guys all next week. Thanks, Dave, as always, and thanks to the rest of the crew.
All right. So last words, if you got value from this, and you're watching the video, give it a like, share it with your mortgage friends. Let us know in the live survey that I just posted whether what kind of value you got from the call. Also, if you're a guest and you're not using Mortgage Coach yet, the best of the best use Mortgage Coach. Go to mortgagecoach.com, sign up for a demo, email sales@mortgagecoach.com, and we will help you accelerate your success. Whatever optimized success for you is, you can't have it without being a Mortgage Coach member and being part of the community. So with that said, it's been a fantastic call. Cody, I hope you had a good time.
It was great. Thanks for having me.
You're an amazing guest. Any last words you have for everybody before you leave?
Oh, man, I just, take action. And again, you said it. Just do one thing, right? This has been a 5-year journey for me to build what I've built and what I do on a day-to-day basis now. And I don't think I could do it if I had to do it all at once. So pick 1 or 2 things, do those, get good at them, give it a month, give it 2 months, give it 3 months, and then add one more thing.
By the way, what was your production 5 years ago, if you don't mind me asking?
I had a breakout year that was 40 million. Before that, I had never really crested 20.
Got it. So guys, think about it. Grinded hard, 20 million, had a breakout year. It was probably a refi market.
Definitely was.
And then, applied disciplines, took his business seriously, did annual reviews. Like I said, every time I interview this guy, I just go like, yep, Cody's doing this. The 20 things that drive optimal success, Cody's doing all of them. All right, guys, this call is a wrap. Have a great day, everybody.
All right,
thanks, guys.
Peace. See you guys next week.
Bye.
Take care.